Good evening and welcome to Sports Federation TV. My name is Alton Davids. I'm your host. As you know, the show is about who and what makes sport happen in Cape Town and the Greater Western Cape. We talk a range of different codes of sport. We chat sailing, rugby, football, softball, even kickboxing. And tonight we're joined in studio by Mr. Anthony Kettle, Vice Chairman of Western Cape Kickboxing. You well?
Oh, very well, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Good. Kickboxing has taken off in leaps and bounds in the Western Cape, Anthony.
Absolutely.
From the furthest part of Cape Town down south all the way into Delft, you've got a big club that's brewing there. Tell us a bit about some of the things that's happening in kickboxing at the moment.
Well, a lot's gone into development over 2015. We've opened 4 or 5 new development clubs. We put a lot of effort into developing the sport last year, and there's a lot of competition happening, which is great.
So the clubs are based where? Give us a sense of where the clubs are.
Well, we've basically got everywhere. So, ranging from your areas all the way, we basically start from the West Coast. So the first club from the West Coast side in Western Province side would be in Atlantis. Then we got in Parklands. We got all over the northern suburbs. We got in Mitchells Plain, Delft. All over the southern suburbs. There's basically a club in any suburb.
And these clubs feed into the Western Cape team. How strong is the Western Cape team generally in terms of the big picture in terms of South Africa?
Well, the Western Cape team is very strong. In terms of full contact kickboxing, K1, we're the strongest team in the country. And took home the most medals in the South African Championships with the K1.
Explain the difference between full contact and semi-contact. What's the difference so people get a sense of?
Well, kickboxing has different codes. They have the K1, which is the full contact K1 where you're allowed to kick to the legs and you're allowed to use your knees.
Do you have protective gear on there?
Yes, absolutely. You've got shin pads, a head guard, gloves, and your mouthpiece. And then you get your kickboxing, your conventional kickboxing with long pants, where you have to kick above the waist, so a certain amount of kicks. Guys also with their gloves, shin pads, mouth guard, foot covered with a padding. And then you get your semi and light contacts, which are matted sports, not in the ring. So it covers all codes really. The general progression would be a youngster would come into a club, do semi or light, and then start his full contact kickboxing, and then eventually go into K1.
And this is all in the amateur division.
This is all in the amateur division, yes.
So let's say I make it big and I win every bout that I participate in, win the K1. What's next for me?
Well, the biggest promotion in the Western Cape is Cape Fight League. We're having a professional event on the 26th of March
Where will that
this
be?
year at Sunningdale Sports Centre, and that's a professional K1 event. So your kickboxers' next step after amateur would be professional, and then they would sign up with one of the promoters and enter as a professional kickboxer.
Take us through the dynamics of Cape Fight League, because it's not only kickboxing that's involved.
Look, Cape Fight League is a multidisciplined platform. We have kickboxing, K1 kickboxing, professional boxing, and MMA. And this year we're starting a grappling league as well. So it basically works on a rotation basis. 26th of March will be a professional kickboxing event. 9th of April we're having a professional boxing event, which will probably be held at the Muizenberg Civic Centre.
Okay. Let's take a look and see what Cape Fight League is all about. Let's check this out. You're watching Sports Federation TV. We're chatting Cape Fight League, we're chatting kickboxing, we're chatting MMA, we're chatting a range of different elements all wrapped into one. Anthony, kickboxing, Cape Fight League is all part of one big package. And as you said, you start with amateur kickboxing, building up into the Cape Fight League.
Correct.
That clip showed a range of different physiques.
Yes.
And often the misperception is you need to be all muscular, you need to have a six-pack to compete. Is that the case?
Look, once you're at your professional level and you're a professional athlete, you would need to be in good shape. But, you know, kickboxing is for everybody. You know, it's not just for the elite athletes. So, you know, you could participate in any level of kickboxing. You know, we do fight in weight divisions. So if you are overweight, you're going to fight in a higher division, which means, you know, you're probably going to fight somebody taller with a longer reach than you. So it would put you at a disadvantage. But the sport is for everybody.
Tell us a bit about some of the bouts that we just saw in that clip.
Yes, that was a mixture of amateur, pro-am and professional fights. Your amateur would be your guys that are just getting into the sport, and you know that's part of our development. And then our pro-am is or super-am is basically the division in between pro. It's preparing the guys for professionals. So once you've had 15, 20 fights, you're allowed to fight pro-am. What happens then is your head guard comes off, your shin pads stay on, you're still fighting at 10-ounce gloves, still the mouth guard. Once you've had 9 or 10 pro-am fights, then you can register and become a pro and fight on the pro circuit. And then the shin pads come off as well. So you need to be properly conditioned for it and ready for that.
And what kind of prize money if you're a pro, or how does it work?
Look, it's negotiated on a per promotion or per promoter per event. The guys normally enter quite low prize money, same as boxing, same as any professional sport. And as your amount of fights and your ranking goes up, you become more expensive to the promoter. So, you know, your manager would approach the promoter, you'd say, okay, I've got this professional. You'd come in at probably 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 for your first fight. And, you know, it goes up from there depending on how experienced you are.
What's the recovery period between fights? I mean, you're going to get clobbered in the ring. Let's say you win the 1,500 rank. How soon is the recovery, or how long is the recovery phase before you come back and you compete again?
Look, if there's no injuries, you can fight once a month, you know, if we're talking professional. If there are any injuries, you would get a recommendation. So if you got a headshot, you were knocked out, you know, you're not allowed to train or compete or be in the ring at all for 6 weeks. So, you know, it depend on your injury or the circumstances. But if there's no injury, look, the guys don't only know how to hit hard, but they also know how to block and not get hit when they're on the professional level. It kind of doesn't become, or it's not two people standing in front of each other swinging wildly. It's very skilled, and the guys are not only punching, but also trying not to get punched. They know how to block, they know how to duck, they know how to bob, weave, and block. And their bodies are conditioned. They're training 3, 4, 5 hours a day, you know.
Which leads me to two questions. I will tackle them one at a time. One is related to the scoring. So how do you score? And then we'll leave that as a second question. My first question to you then is there a mental component to this? Because as you just said, you need to then block and plan your shots. Tell me a bit about that.
Well, the scoring system first is a 10-9 system. So you have 3 judges sitting around the ring. They will score the fight 10 or 9, 10 to the winner or 9 to the loser of the round, depending on who performed better. If they do draw, it goes to who had the better technique, who was moving forward, and a whole list of different things. The 3 judges' scorecards get collected at the end of the fight. It goes to the referee. The referee takes it to the head table, and the person with the most points would win that fight. In terms of the mental preparation, it's as important, if not more important, than the physical preparation. Because if you truly don't believe that you are the best, you're going to struggle in the ring and you're not going to win your fight. I've seen many people come in that aren't mentally prepared. They're physically strong, and you know, they do very well in the amateurs, but they don't perform at all in the pros because they're just not mentally prepared for it. You need to be 18 to turn pro. And that's just a part of the mental preparation in getting into the pros.
How do people find out more about kickboxing?
they can basically go onto Google kickboxing and their area. You'll pick up any of the clubs, or you can go into the Western Province Kickboxing Association Facebook page and kept up to date with what's going on with kickboxing in the Western Cape, or go to www.kickboxer.co.za and that'll give you a national footprint on what's happening with kickboxing, all the events, local and national.
Okay, let's take an ad break. We'll see you now. This is Sports Federation TV. If you've just tuned in, you missed the first segment where we chatted about kickboxing and Cape Fight League. We now move on to a bit of water sport. We chat rowing. We're joined by Tommy Brummer from the Alfred Rowing Club and a member of the Western Cape Rowing. Tommy, you well?
I'm very well today, thank you.
Good, good. Thank you for taking time to come and chat to us about rowing. Give us an overview of the magnitude of rowing. Rowing's a huge sport. Give us just a snippet of the different elements of rowing.
Okay, fine. Rowing is a very international sport, very old organized sport. Started in this country 152 years ago with the establishment of a couple of rowing clubs at the old harbour, the Victorian Alfred Basin. Internationally, there are various kinds of races that happen. The most commonly known one is the Oxford-Cambridge race, which is with boats, big boats with 8 rowers in each, and that's called a boat race, and is about a 6.2 kilometer race down the river with 2 boats.
And rowing generally happens in a straight line. Generally.
Well, yeah, generally it's a straight line, or your sprint racing is a straight line racing. That's what they do at the Olympics. 2 kilometers, 1 kilometer, and then some 500-meter sprints as well. So in this country, the way that it happens is the boat races take place at Alfred, Port Alfred, on the river there, and there are 2 events. One in the sort of end of summer, or the end of winter rather, with the universities. They all go to the city there and have their races, and then the first week of December, it's the schools races. Okay. They do the boat race, and then the first term of university and school now starting, it's the sprint races, and those are around the country, and this Saturday is the first sprint race at Elgin.
So tell me a bit about this event on Saturday or tomorrow.
Okay, so this race is it's mainly just for the schools. It's the beginning of their sprint race season. So there'll be 2 kilometer races, 1 kilometer, and the boats that they use, if we can talk about that, single sculls, it's 1 person rowing in a boat. Then there's doubles, and then there's a boat with 4 people, which is called a quad if they're sculling with 2 oars, and a quad or a 4 if they're doing sweep oars, and then the 8 boat as well. If it's a sweep rowing, it's called an 8. If they are doing scull racing with 2 oars, then of course it's called an octuple.
Sure, that's very technical. Tommy, this event on tomorrow, can anybody come and watch it? I hope that it happens. I mean, we know that there's fires happening in the Elgin Valley at the moment. So let's hope that they can douse all the fires so we can have the event tomorrow. Where exactly is this event?
Okay, just outside of Kobese, there's the Elgin Country Club at the Eikenhof Dam. and it's quite well signposted. As you go into the town of Kobese, you turn to the left, and then it's about 3 kilometers to the dam. And the racing starts at 7 in the morning and should run all the way through till about 3, 4 in the afternoon. So a full day of racing with all the schoolboys and girls.
And girls. Let's take a look and see what rowing's all about. Check this out. This is Sports Federation TV. If you've just tuned in, we're chatting rowing. We're joined in studio by Tommy Brummer from the Alfred Rowing Club. Tommy, that clip was breathtaking. The scenery is something else. Is that what rowing's always about?
Well, the venues where we row are generally very pretty. Most of the rowing in Cape Town happens at Sekhukhune, and a lot of people don't think it's a very nice place because the water's quite green and sometimes a bit smelly. But when there's no wind, it's an absolute beautiful place to row. The other rowing that we do, obviously, as I mentioned, at Kobese on the Eikenhof Dam, also spectacular setting next to the mountains. And then there's Misverstand Dam on the Berg River, just north of Moreesburg. A lot of training happens there, and the couple, about 3 or 4 events a year go there. And also a stunning setting. A lot of the footage that you saw now was on the Khoko River near Stilbay, a really undiscovered place for rowing, and stunning as you saw.
Yeah. You mentioned the Sekhukhune area. Tell us about I know that your club is based there, the Alfred Club. Tell us a bit about the Alfred Club firstly.
Okay, the Alfred Rowing Club is one of the oldest organized sporting clubs in the country. We think maybe the oldest at 152 years. It hasn't always been at Sekhukhune. It started at the waterfront, well, what was then the harbour, and some of the boats were stored under the pier. And when the Rochabai, or the foreshore, was developed just after or during the Second World War, there was no more space for rowing there, and Alfred's had to move down to Sekhukhune. There weren't any proper roads there, so they went on sand tracks, but they've been there at 3 different locations around the Vlei, but the last number of years have been incorporated into the Sekhukhune Yacht Club, and so the headquarters is there. And then on the same premises, we've got sheds for the Bishops Club and the
Which is the Bishops High School.
Bishops High School
Yep.
Rowing Club and Saxe High School Rowing Club. And then there's a small division there for the Grassy Park development team. They also row with us in that position. Then on the southern shore of Sekhukhune, there's another shed for the Western Cape Development Academy. And then with them, the Rondebosch Boys High have got a portion of the shed. And the last club there is the Peninsula Girls Rowing Club, which is a combination. It's a club with various schools. Girls from a variety of schools around the peninsula can row there. So rowing really is available to any high school girls, and they're very welcome to go and row for Peninsula Girls Rowing Club.
And that hub is synonymous with breeding champions, rowing champions, because you've got the best schools there, you've got your oldest club there, so the expertise is there. How do people find out more about the clubs?
Okay, so the school clubs, obviously, it's if you go to the school, then normally when the kids are just about to leave the prep school or the primary school, then there'll be a mission to the school by the senior school, and they go and harvest some of the rowers and take them on a camp before the school actually starts. So by the time the boys and girls go to school, they already meet some of the older people in the school, and it's quite useful,
Yeah.
and they feel part of the school. The rowing club, or Alfred Rowing Club, we've got a website, we've got contact details that I can give you.
What's the website?
The website, I can't remember the address, but if
Just
someone
Google
wants to
Alfred Rowing
Alfred
Club.
Rowing Club, and it will go straight
Yep.
there. That's not a problem. And that's a combination of some schoolboys who want to do a bit of extra rowing, university people, and mainly elder guys who've been rowing, obviously learnt at school, rowed through varsity and have continued. So there's quite a lot of depth at the club, and we've got some senior members who've been rowing for many years, and incidentally, two of them went to the World Championships last year and came away with gold medals. So the expertise is there, and of course they let us into a couple of tips from time to time.
Definitely. How do we promote rowing? Why would I want to be a rower, in your opinion?
Okay, so generally one can say it's people who aren't good at ball sports.
That's
the
to rule out a fair amount of people. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's not a high impact sport. It's not like running and physics. So physically fairly demanding, but we don't have many injuries. Guys sometimes get back injuries from doing too much rowing, but it's good on the joints. It's excellent exercise for the whole body, and you're doing it in the great outdoors. And if the weather is bad, there's ergonometers that one can row at. You see them at gyms, and the guys in the gyms normally use them incorrectly, but if you use them correctly, they're very, very good training machines.
Definitely. Tommy, thank you for your time. If people want to know more about rowing, go out to Google and Google the Alfred Rowing Club as well as Western Cape Rowing. I'm sure you'll find lots more information. Tommy, thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Let's take an ad break, and when we come back, we'll be chatting chess. See you now. This is Sports Federation TV. If you've just tuned in, you've missed two exciting segments where we chatted about Cape Fight League, kickboxing, and also Western Cape rowing. We now move to something that's a bit more sedate, some people will say. Nonetheless, you'll pick up a few injuries in this sport. We're chatting chess. We're joined in studio by Dr. Deon Solomons, Chairman of Western Province. Chess, are you well?
Well, nice to be here. Thanks.
Good. Sir, Mr. Watu Kobese, international master, author, amongst other things. Are you well, sir?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much for having me here.
Good, good. I want to chat to you in a bit. Just hold fire. Deon, chess has been growing in leaps and bounds in Cape Town particularly and the Western Cape. Tell us how has chess developed over the last 6 months since you've last been here?
Well, it's been very good for Cape Town and the Western Cape. We've hosted all the national events in Cape Town. Thus far, we had the SA Open in July at the Cape Sun Hotel. We had the SA Women's Open in September at the Lady Hamilton Hotel in Cape Town. And then we had the SA Closed in December, also at the Lady Hamilton. And then in January this year, in 2016, we had the National Junior Chess Championships. We had 2,158 participants playing for the youth team championships. And in addition to that, we had another 700 players playing a wild card and a regional championship. So in total, 3,000 players nearly. Wow. At University of Cape Town from 3rd till 10th of January this year.
Is there any particular reason why everybody wants to come to Cape Town?
I think it must be the fantastic sceneries that we have. It's a tourist destination and it's popular with everybody. So whenever we have big events, people flock to Cape Town from all corners of South Africa.
But not only for chess. If you look at all codes of sport, Cape Town, or Western Cape particularly, hosts 74 of the national championships every single year. That's the reality of sport. Because Western Cape is the mecca of all sport. Deon, clubs thriving well? Tell us a bit about some of the clubs.
You know, Goliath Monroe told us at one of the tournaments that we had, in fact at the SA Closed, he told us, when you play chess, you should have fun. And we'll remember Mr. Monroe for that. It's a very important statement that he made. We enjoy chess. That's why we encourage our youth and our adults to join libraries, go to school chess clubs, and you can go to the chesswesternprovince.coza website. If you want to find a club in your area, there are 41 chess clubs. So chess is very popular and growing in the Western Cape.
I don't know how chess can be fun because it's very serious. If you look at those oaks sitting with their notepads, Watu will tell us about every move you make a note and you scribe everything. And it's all very technical, and you need to prepare. How many months in advance, Watu?
Yeah, maybe 3 to 4 months you can start preparing. Yeah.
And it's not just sitting and noting everything. You play against a computer, and you play against other people across the world. It's quite technical.
It's very technical, you know. But what makes chess challenging more than anything is that you actually play against yourself, because you have to remember that before you get to a critical position where the opponent is actually playing against you, you are doing everything in your mind. So, you know, it doesn't matter how strong you are or how strong or weak your opponent is, you're always nervous. Because remember, you are looking at, you know, the moves that you see. Whether your opponent sees them or not is irrelevant. So it can be quite stressful, and so the preparation for that can be very technical, you know, from looking for the opponent's games on the internet to looking at various databases to training games online, you know. So it's quite, but it's a lot of fun actually doing that. Yeah.
Give us a short history of your achievements. I mean, you're an international master. Tell us how you got to that point or this point in your life.
Mm-hmm. Well, basically, for me, you know, I always say that it's quite funny, but my life has been like, you know, a series of lucky events, you know. I mean, first of all, you know, I was born in Soweto, and how my dad played chess. He used to be a drafts player, and when in 1972 that Bobby Fischer versus Spassky match came about, you know, then everyone obviously started to buy a chessboard and learning the rules and so on. You know, it was huge everywhere around the world, and so all kinds of chess clubs, you know, were established in Soweto. And when I was a youngster, I used to watch them play around, you know, at home and so on. So that was a lucky coincidence, because from a very young age, I was playing against tournament players. because these guys were playing tournaments and so on, and they were studying books. So my very first games, you know, when I was playing, I never played against rank amateurs. I played against guys who could really play.
Yeah.
So I could accelerate, you know, and I understood immediately from a young age that in order to compete against these guys, I had to study. And I went on playing, but I think my biggest breakthrough came in 1988 when I got a scholarship to go and study in Germany, in a Schach Gymnasium. That's a specialized school where they were doing other things, chess included. And I did that, and after that I started playing professionally. So I got my international master title in 1995. And amongst you know, titles I'm proud of, I would count various SA clothes. I think I've won it 4 times. SA Open, I'm not sure, probably 6 times or so.
Wow.
And then I also won the African Individual Championship in 2001. So that for me was the highlight of my career.
Very impressive, sir. Very impressive.
Thank you.
You're watching Sports Federation TV. We're chatting to some of the brains of Cape Town, as they like to think. These guys play chess, so they think they're clever. Watu, you've written a book about chess. Tell us a bit about that, because that for me is puts a funny spin, or an interesting spin, on your story.
Well, you know, the interesting thing why I actually came to write this book was when I was still playing professionally, you know, I would come back to South Africa and maybe stick around for maybe 6-7 months. And I would play various tournaments and talk to various people to try and get funding. And then once I got that sorted out, I would then go over to Europe and stay there maybe 8-9 months, then come back, you know, backwards and forwards. But what I liked to do every time I got back was to obviously check the situation, you know, in you know, the up and coming players and so on, you know, and many times when I was teaching guys in townships and rural areas, you know, I got to see that, you know, there's always a language problem. You know, when I had to explain what a knight is, you know, I would say, no, you know, a knight is a soldier who's very good, and then the king, you know, that calls you, and, you know, with a sword,
yes,
and this, and then I knight, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a whole story, and I look at the kid afterwards, and the kid is completely lost.
Because
Like,
you give him a whole lot of explanation in English, and
Yeah.
English is not his mother language.
yes, yes, even though I'm explaining something, but it's something that I'm explaining in his language, but it's so foreign that I've lost them.
Yeah.
So then I said to myself, I was thinking to myself, gee whiz, come on, let me just search online and everywhere if I can find anything that's been written in indigenous languages. And I found out there's nothing, you know, all across Africa, you know, like the whole sub-Saharan Africa, nothing written in indigenous languages,
Wow.
not only in South Africa. Then I said to myself, oh, well, I guess I have to do it, you know.
Can I stop you there? Having all of that, we realize that there are still top players who can't speak English very well, but yet they're top players.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's a dichotomy of how you understand all of this. That Oku's got no English first language, yet can understand it and play the game well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, at a certain level, we actually, but this is not obvious. This is just a very subjective point of view. But I think we lose a lot of talent in South Africa somewhere because of the language gap. Because if you look at various players around, you know, nations, they play in a specific way.
Yeah.
You know, the Russians, there's a certain way that the Russians approach a game, very technical, looking at end games, you know, small advantages. You look at the Chinese guys, they're very tactical, and it is said that they're tactical because they start with Chinese chess and Go, you know, all those variants, which are very, very aggressive and tactical. You look at the Indian players, how they play. So you look at all the players, the English players, everyone plays differently. And actually, if you look at a couple of games, Grandmaster games, and without looking at the names, and I said to you know, a club player, look at these games and tell me who you think played these games. They will most probably tell you, no, this is a Russian player, this is a Chinese player, this, you know.
Just on the style.
Just on the style. But what is interesting is that we don't have a South African style. And I think we don't have a South African style because, you know, all of us tend to then somehow lose our identity somewhere. But as I say, this is just subjective.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm saying that if you go on the direction of getting the guys when they are young, you know, when this imagination is so hot, and you get this kid to really understand in their own language what this piece is. You know, they won't be seeing that piece, they'll be seeing this image.
Yes.
You know, and from there, of course, then they can then move over to English or any other language. But the point is that that spark will have been turned on, and I feel then you start to see a style, and you start to say, whoa, that's a South African player.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What's the name of the book, Watu?
Well, the book is called Masidlale Utimba, which is basically in Xhosa it's Let's Play Chess. And what has actually happened is that I wrote the first book I wrote was in Zulu, just simply because based on the numbers that, you know, the Zulu speakers are the majority in South Africa, so it made sense for me to start in Zulu. And then afterwards I translated all the book, not myself, but, you know, with help of others, into all the indigenous languages of South Africa. But at the moment we're having a situation where we have only one book that has been you know, put through the test, because I went into a partnership with the Arts and Culture Department with a very good HOD there, a gentleman who's a friend of chess by the name of Advocate Lyndon Bauer. And he took it upon, you know, once we had this discussion with him, you know, he saw the vision, and he actually put a lot of muscle behind the project, where I had then a language expert, a guy by the name of Mr. Kobese Chongolo, who actually is an author himself, you know, on Xhosa books. And yeah, I think we really produced, if I may say so myself, a work of art, you know? Yeah, so.
Deon,
yeah.
has this book influenced players in the Greater Western Cape?
Well, there's a big demand for the book in schools. I believe that if one book is placed in every school, chess will lift off in a way that we haven't seen before. This has been even supported by the MSG for Sport in the Western Cape. The Honourable Minister Andrew Mare at the SA Open, she said that this is the future, and I want to commend Watu and his team for the wonderful work they're doing, and I think this is the project for the future for Western Cape and even for the broader South Africa.
And that's the springboard that chess needs to get the word of chess out and people to understand across the Western Cape and across the country that chess is for all.
That's correct. If you think about it, if this book is in every library in the Western Cape, then our readers out there immediately has access to it. And learning the game of chess becomes 10 times easier than trying to understand it in a different language, if that is not your home language. So it'll definitely add value.
Watu, is the book readily available at this point?
The book is available, and at the moment actually we are in advanced talks with Chess Western Province, with Chess South Africa, and one other organization, which is Rotary, that is very much interested in getting involved. So the idea is to actually have a rollout, and we are thinking of, we're going to start this year, and we're going to start first with Western Cape, and then we move over to other regions.
You have to start at the home, Western Cape.
Absolutely.
Deon, what's it like having a young man like this in the ranks of Western Cape chess?
You know, it's been fantastic having Watu coming and residing in our region. He's done a phenomenal amount of work with our youth players. Just now at the SAJCC again, we broke another record. We've now won 13 gold team medals, 7 silver medals and 2 bronze medals.
Wow.
So we've outstripped past performances, and also just this next weekend from the 29th till the 31st of January, hopefully he'll be there to support our youth players and our adults playing in the annual Cape of Good Hope Chess Championship. That'll be held at the Ravensmead Multi-Purpose Hall in Florida Street in Ravensmead. So we're inviting all our chess enthusiasts to come and play. There'll be about 300 players at this event.
And that's in Ravensmead next weekend.
That's right. That's right. Friday,
Watu,
Saturday, Sunday.
In closing, what would you tell someone who's interested in chess and wants to pursue chess?
I would say, you know, to each and every parent out there that, you know, chess is not just a sport. It's a game that once you know the rules, the kid will understand, and there are many benefits that your kid will get from playing chess: concentration, visualization, you know, and on and on and on. So I think that anyone who's watching, you know, should just, you know, go to the website, the Chess Western Province website, look at various clubs that are there, see which club is near to your area, you know, ask around, get your kid there, get your kid involved, you know, and there definitely will be benefits that you will derive from playing chess.
Deon, in closing, contact details for chess?
Well, they can certainly go to the Chess Western Province website. There's also a Facebook. It's basically just called Chess Western Province. So there's also on Twitter. So you can follow us in 3 different ways, social media-wise. And then if you want to contact our secretary, that is the General Secretary of Chess Western Province, that's Marcel Agallis. And that is Chess Western Province Secretary at chesswesternprovince.co.za.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Watu, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to write those books and for making a serious impact into the chess fraternity and the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deon, thank you.
Thank you too.
Let's take an ad break, and when we come back, we'll chat Wexa. See you now.